What's up everyone, I'm CallumOnToast, and in today's video I'm going to be showcasing some battles submitted to the channel by SharkBoyRCool, who's running a Pokemon that actually has a lower stat product for the Open Great League than Attack Form Deoxys, and that Pokemon is Carvanha. Now Carvanha's CP at level 50 only reaches 1154, so it's definitely not as attack weighted as Deoxys, and actually that lack of stat product is mostly just due to lack of stats across the board, but it does still have a similar attack stat to Alakazam and Gengar despite that low CP. So it still hits like a truck, and it absolutely cannot take a hit. Now this trainer is pairing it with Shadow Galarian Weezing and Carvanha's evolution, Shadow Sharpedo. Now just so you guys know, this is going to be a shorter video than usual as it's a very difficult team to run, but there are still 10 battles submitted. So with that being said, let's just get into the question of the day. What is the worst Pokemon you've ever attempted to get wins with in the Go Battle League? Let me know in the comment section down below, and with that being said, let's get into the battles now. Alright, so go into the first battle, leading Shadow Galarian Weezing into Unova Stunfisk. So not ideal for us, very much a core breaker for the team, but we say swap into Sharpedo, and we're met with Azumarill. Now, for most Dark and Water-type Pokemon, this would be awful, but Sharpedo has access to Poison Fang. It does big damage, it drops their defense as well, and actually, because we've now landed a Poison Fang, we can commit one shield and go for a very aggressive Waterfall Farm Down, coming out with the Crunch loaded, gonna blind throw it. The opponent comes back in with Unova Stunfisk, Crunch, gonna be shielded. Unfortunately, no defense drop there, but we're going to be forced to come back in with our Shadow Galarian Weezing, as Carvanha is really not going to appreciate the Thunder Shock damage. The opponent goes for a Mud Bomb there. We're able to reach a Brutal Swing on the CMP type, winning CMP. Brutal Swing does okayish damage there, but we're going to be forced to use our final shield, and this is really not ideal for us because Carvanha with no shields is probably the worst thing you could try to run in the Go Battle League. But we go for another Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing going to be shielded. The opponent committing to a Farm Down and not getting there in time. So as a result, we reach a last-second Brutal Swing, we get the KO, we swap, and the opponent's going to have a Skeledirge in the back, and we're on Snarl. We're able to outpace them to the Aqua Jet, and Aqua Jet's super effective. It gets the one-shot up against the Skeledirge, and we're able to take that game. But not only that, we're also able to grab a screenshot for the road, which is very nice. Into the next battle, starting very quickly, we see Alolan Sandslash in the lead. We say swap into Sharpedo, and we're met with Credilli. Now, Credilli, not known for its fast move pressure, but look at the Bullet Seed damage. That is insane. The opponent fires off a charge move, and this is actually going to allow us to shield and now reach a second Poison Fang, and this will get all shields down or flip switch advantage. We do grab all shields from the opponent. The opponent's going to fire off the charge move straight away as the opponent goes for a Rock Tomb here. Looks like we're going to try and commit to the Farm Down, but just barely not getting it in time. Forced to go for a Brutal Swing here as we don't want to use our final shield. We get the Farm Down there, and the opponent's going to come in with a Shadow Kanto Marowak. These Mud Slaps absolutely chunking, but again, reaching the Aqua Jet, getting the one-shot up against the Marowak, grabbing a screenshot once again, but unfortunately, the screenshot is not going to be enough to win the game for us as the opponent still has a very healthy Alolan Sandslash. We don't have access to Overheat, so I'm going to fire off the Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing does about 30% of their HP, maybe even less than that, and unfortunately they can outpace us to the next charge move, and so we just stopped the recording there. Don't really know why. I would advise, if you're going to submit battles, at least fully record every battle that you're going to submit, because otherwise it just gets a little bit awkward. But either way, into the next battle, the opponent makes a very nice catch there. Honestly, we should never be throwing on alignment up against a Wigglytuff when we've got a 2-turn fast move there, but we get punished. The opponent comes in with Marowak. We can go for the Farm Down, and we do at least leave with a Poison Fang loaded. So Poison Fang hits for super effective damage. It does big damage there. We drop their defense. We can come in with the Weezing. They do reach a charge move though, so we're going to no-shield this. The opponent fires off an Icy Wind, debuffing our attack, but they've got Galarian Corsola in the back, so we're going straight for Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing grabs a shield from the opponent. We can now come in with the Carvanha. Carvanha going to be able to outpace them to the charge moves. We're going straight for Crunch here, not baiting with an Aqua Jet. Crunch grabs the final shield. They're committing to a full Farm Down, but they don't get there in time. Carvanha reaches the second Crunch. Crunch gets the one shot up against the bulky Corsola, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, we see a Jumpluff in the lead, so a positive lead matchup for us. Of course, resisting the Fairy Wind damage. We're going to go straight for Sludge here. Sludge is going to do respectable damage in this matchup. It does over half their HP. The opponent will fire for charge move. They farmed up to the Acrobatics, so we will shield. We respect it, and it is an Acrobatics. We are now going to bait with a Brutal Swing. From this range, Brutal Swing won't quite get the KO, but it does grab the fast shield from the opponent. We're going to no-shield this time around. We should be able to tank an Acrobatics, but it does rock us deep into the red health range, so we're now going to overfarm just slightly, fire off the Sludge here. Sludge is going to eventually connect and take out the Jumpluff before they come in with a Blastoise. Now, this is not really ideal for us. We go for a Brutal Swing here. Maybe could have committed to a Sludge, and you can see we actually would have got there, so that is unfortunate. We now come in with Sharpedo, and we get one turn bring in lag there, which means we're not able to go for a Waterfall and then swap and catch the move onto Carvana. We do eventually swap into Carvana, but the opponent actually overfarms in this matchup, and Hydro Cannon resisted damage easily gets the one-shot there. And because we weren't able to swap out when we wanted to, unfortunately the opponent does reach a Hydro Cannon. We do throw on CMP, winning CMP, but the opponent safely shields up the charge move. And again, a resisted Hydro Cannon takes out Sharpedo, and unfortunately we do lose that game. But into the next battle, positive lead matchup for us once again, seeing a Goodra in the lead. So going straight for Sludge here. Sludge, of course, going to hit for neutral damage. Sludge does very respectable damage and actually puts them into a very comfortable Fairy Wind farm down range. We are going to no shield. The opponent does reach a Thunder Punch, which does slightly more damage than an Aqua Tail, but that's okay. We're going for the farm down. The opponent's going to come in with a Drapion, and honestly, I'd probably swap out into Sharpedo just because we do resist the charge move damage. However, if we do allow them to get a lot of energy, that's going to be very difficult for us, but the opponent swaps into Superior. We're going straight for Poison Fang. Poison Fang is, of course, going to hit for super effective damage, and the opponent uses their final shield. They do get a very nice farm down, but we've got a Sludge bank. We can throw it straight away. We debuff their defense. We go for an undercharge, but it actually gets the KO anyways. They come in. They do actually not reach a full farm down before we reach another charge move. Could have gone for Sludge there, but either way, Brutal Swing gets them low, and the opponent concedes the match at the site of our Carvana. So once again, grabbing a screenshot, and we're able to take that game. Into the next battle, see Primeape in the lead, so the good leads continue here as we are going to, of course, double resist the Karate Chop damage. They can go straight for a Rage Twist here. It's not going to do too much damage. We are now going to go for a Brutal Swing bait, but it gets caught onto Diggersby. So actually, not too bad that we baited there, and actually that chip damage might allow us to come in with the Sharpedo, shield once, and not even have to tank a Fire Punch. And even though Fire Punch, non-stab from a very bulky Pokemon, honestly, that would do quite a lot of damage. So we get the farm down there. They come back in with the Primeape. We can go straight for a Poison Fang here. Poison Fang gonna be shielded by the opponent, and we can get off 2 Waterfalls onto their debuff defense. At this point, we realize we're obviously not gonna win CMP up against Primeape, so instead committing to the Fairy Wind farm down, but we actually swap out there, expecting the opponent to swap out at the same time. Really nice play there, but unfortunately, we've swapped into a Carvana up against Azumarill, and Carvana does actually have access to Poison Fang. However, we're not running it because Aqua Jet is just so good this season, but up against Azumarill, of course, Aqua Jet not really going to help us at all as it is resisted damage. You can see 2 resisted Aqua Jets do get them into the yellow health range, which is quite respectable. But at this point, Ice Beam resisted takes out Carvana. We come in with the Weezing. We're actually going to bait here with a Brutal Swing. Brutal Swing grabs the final shield, and we're able to reach a Sludge at the last possible second. Sludge from this range gets the KO, and one Fairy Wind gets a simultaneous KO up against the Primeape, and we do at least salvage a tie. Now into the next battle, we're going to see a Superior in the lead. The opponent safe swaps into a Shadow type Flosion. We come in with the Sharpedo. Definitely going to have to shield up a Thunder Punch. That easily one-shots us. We are now going for the full farm down there. And the opponent is going to wait out their Switch Lock in the full, come back in with the Superior, and we're actually full sending a Crunch. Now, Crunch is going to hit for neutral damage, but it does massive damage there. It does do more damage than a Poison Fang. However, it does not debuff their defense here, even though it does have a chance for that. The opponent swaps into Talonflame, but unfortunately down a shield. This is not going to be a positive matchup for Carvana. You can see these Incinerates are seriously chunking us. At least they don't buff up their attack there with a Flame Charge, but either way, it's not looking too good. We go for an Aqua Jet there. We can fire off a second Aqua Jet, and this should be grabbing the final shield from the opponent, and it does exactly that. So we come back in with the Weezing. We could have actually maximized and gone for 2 Fairy Winds there, as the opponent didn't realize they took out our Carvana, and they continue to overfarm, but unfortunately, it's not going to be enough. Fly gets the KO there, I assume, but we stop the recording once again too early. But into the next battle, we're going to see a Wigglytuff in the lead, so we're going straight for the Sludge here. Again, not throwing on the best timing, but either way, Sludge is going to connect. The opponent doesn't throw a charge move. They don't reach a charge move, and they just concede the match. What the heck was that? Into the next battle, we're going to see a Galarian Weezing mirror match here. We are going to see the opponent safe swaps into a Shadow Kanto Marowak. These mud stabs are seriously chunky. I'm not that confident that we can shield and go for a full farm down, but we just barely get that farm down. We come out with the Poison Fang loaded as the opponent comes back in with their own Galarian Weezing, and the opponent no shields that first move. We can now go and fire off a Sludge straight away with that debuff to the defense. Sludge is going to do big damage. It gets the KO, but they've got a Feraligatr in the back. So at this point, of course, Carvanha is going to wall the charge moves from Feraligatr, but it doesn't matter as the opponent, for whatever reason, decides not to bother shielding, and we're able to take that game. So going into the final battle of this video, leading into a Shadow Drapion, we're going to swap into Sharpedo, and very poor timing from the opponent, allowing a full Waterfall to go in for free, and that actually allows a full farm down there after shielding just once. Now the opponent comes in with a Shadow Feraligatr. We're going straight for Crunch here. Crunch is no shielding, it does huge damage, and the opponent's final Pokemon is a Typhlosion. We get off 2 Waterfalls there, which doesn't even make sense, but this game should be wrapped up at this point. All we have to do here is go for a Brutal Swing, grab a shield from the opponent, and just let the move go through. No, we're actually going to shield this. I do not agree with this decision at all because, of course, our Fairy Winds are resisted. We're going for the Brutal Swing here. Brutal Swing is going to be shielded by the opponent, and they get the farm down. No, what have we done? I think we've thrown the game here. The opponent is going to go for a resisted Blast Burn, but it still gets the one shot, and somehow we've thrown that game away. So that's going to be it for today's video. If you did enjoy it, please make sure you leave a like, leave a comment letting me know, and as well, don't forget to respond to the question of the day if you haven't done so already. And if you want to see more content like this in the future, make sure you hit that subscribe button and turn on post notifications. That way you'll be notified whenever I upload a new video. And if you want to take your support even further, you can now become a channel member with perks including early access to new videos, shoutouts at the end of each video, custom loyalty badges, and custom emojis to use in the comments. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone that has already become a channel member. Your support is greatly appreciated. And with that being said, thank you all so much for watching today's video, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.